Super forecasters and weather enthusiasts, I invite you to the official Weather Decoded 2016-2017 Super Winter Forecast. It is finally here. Now, as a little bit of a disclaimer, I am not the screaming media, okay? I'm not going to give you hypey, loud, dumbed-down weather forecasts, okay? This is just how I see it. This is right out of the meteorological toolbox, and we're going to use some meteorology terms, okay? So this is like your raw, real weather coming at you here. So I have come up with 10 different key factors that I've used to forecast this winter forecast, and that includes the Enso, the PDO, the PNA, the NAO, the Siberian snowpack, the AO, the solar cycle, the analogs, the forecast models, and of course the National Weather Service's forecast. And I've taken all of these and I've put them onto a composite map, weighted them accordingly, and I've made a winter forecast out of that. And so I'm not going to go into all of those details here. We're going to go right into the forecast. But there are a couple of factors I want to talk about that will impact our weather in a big way. And the first one is the Enso. And that is essentially the sea surface temperatures in the eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. Right now, they are cooler than average. These things are going to impact our winter weather across the United States. Last year, they were way warmer than average. This is where you get the El Niños and La Niña phrases from, okay? Right now, we are in a borderline La Niña because it's cooler than average. And El Niño would actually be way warmer than average. And if you remember last year, the temperatures were way warmer than average in the eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. We had a Godzilla, a massive, massive El Niño. That led for much warmer than average conditions and much above average precipitation, especially for this area, the central and eastern United States. Now, I don't think that's going to happen this winter. We're going to be closer to a La Niña because the temperatures are cooler. But even the La Niña isn't overly strong. So what does a La Niña look like? What kind of weather can we get from a La Niña? Well, the jet stream's going to be kind of shunted to the south a little bit more than usual in the central and eastern United States. So you're going to get cooler than average temperatures in the northern, central, and eastern United States. And you're going to get wetter conditions kind of in the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and the Great Lakes region. You're also going to get above average temperatures, you're going to get above average precipitation out in the western U.S., probably more northwestern U.S., and then dry weather and probably warm weather in the southern U.S., okay? Now, that being said, that's only one factor of many, okay? So that's not how it's going to exactly look. Now, the La Niña looks pretty weak right now. It actually looks somewhat in between a La Niña and a neutral phase. So what type of weather do we get in a neutral phase, meaning average sea surface temperatures? Well, you typically get a jet stream diverted kind of to the south in the eastern United States, a little bit further north than a La Niña and a little bit further east. You get wet conditions a little bit further south, more so in the Tennessee Valley down to the southern plains, and you get warm conditions in the southern United States, maybe extending up into California. So I think it's going to actually end up right in between those two. Right in between those two. Now, there are other factors involved, obviously, that will impact the weather as well. But how is this La Niña shaping up right now? It's not overly strong, as you can tell. This is right now. This is last winter. This is that El Niño. Anything above in the red is El Niño. Anything above 0.5 is El Niño. Anything below 0.5 is a La Niña. It's very borderline right now. And so it's weak. So I don't think La Niña is going to be a huge impact this winter, but it still will be an impact. So what are the models saying? Well, the models actually have this thing pretty steady. Okay, right now is November. This is December. This is January. And this is February. It kind of remains the same, maybe increases a little bit. Okay, and right now, this is the 0.5 degree line. This is indicating La Nina. You have to have temperatures at 0.5 degrees or below for 3 or more months to be a La Nina. And that may or may not happen. We'll see what happens. But it's been very close. And so most of the models are converging right around 0.5. So it's going to be a borderline La Nina, to say the least. So it'll probably be right in between that La Nina and a neutral kind of pattern. The other thing that makes a big impact, especially on years that are closer to neutral, and this didn't have a big impact last winter, but it might have a bigger impact this winter because things are closer to neutral, is the Pacific Decadal Oscillation. This is the temperatures in the Gulf of Alaska. They are warmer than average. Okay, they were very warm last year, but they're warmer than average this year as well. Right now, and actually into October, it actually cooled a little bit. You can see it kind of cooled. It was cooler than average, but it is forecasted to warm back up. That typically means a cooler eastern U.S. and a wetter and warmer western U.S. Okay, so kind of similar to a La Nina, slightly different, but that will also impact the winter as well. And then another key factor I want to talk about is analogs. These are winters that could potentially be similar to this winter, that have had similar patterns. And how have those winters shaped up? You got 1959-60, 83-84, 95-96, 05-06, 13-14, and 14-15. And those winters had much cooler than average conditions for pretty much the eastern two-thirds, eastern half of the United States, with much below average conditions. Very cold out in the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes region, Midwestern area. Then you had above average conditions out in the southwestern United States, especially towards California. This is something that looks like that could happen this winter. So what do our good old friend computer models say? I mean, I wouldn't put too much stock into these. I would use kind of traditional forecasting methods. But what do they say? Let's just look at it. And I've picked out a model, I think, that looks kind of reasonable. This is the CFS. This is for December, January, and February. And this is examining 500 millibars. It's kind of examining the mid-levels closer to the jet stream. How is that going to look? Okay. When you see little bulges like this, that means ridges, warmer weather. Okay. Warmer, probably drier weather in that area. And when you see little troughs like this, kind of dips, you're going to get cooler weather. Probably more active weather. And so this is really pointing to a good picture of how this winter is playing out. And this kind of looks like a La Nina and positive PDO pattern right now, where you got warmer than average conditions in the western U.S. and cooler than average conditions in the eastern U.S. This is the average over 3 months. This looks like something kind of right in between a La Nina and neutral pattern. So that's what the CFS says. So those are the only key factors I'm going to talk about in this video. If you want to know the other key factors that are impacting this weather, I've included an 80-page, I'll repeat that, an 80-page winter forecast for you for free below this video. There's a link below. Go ahead and sign up, enter your email, and I will send it right off to you. So let's crack right into the good stuff here. This is a composite of all of those key factors for temperatures. So I've literally said, okay, how does this key factor look? Where's the temperatures on this key factor? Is it above or below average? And I've plotted all of this onto a map. And you can see there's clear correlation that this area right kind of here-ish has cooler than average temperatures. The blues are colder, the yellows and oranges are warmer. So I've literally put everything on the map here. And I've weighted them accordingly. And hey, it's even cooler up in this region right here. It's warm out here and even warmer as you get into California. So I think there's clear correlation. We could have a very cool eastern half of the United States and a warmer than average western half of the United States. Now, that being said, how's the precipitation look? This, I've done the same exact thing. I've overlaid all of those factors and I've shown all of those factors onto one map here. The greens are above average precip, and the yellows and oranges are below average precip. Now, these little red lines here that are poorly drawn, as you can tell, I've hired my fancy graphic designer to draw these out. These are the storm tracks, okay, where the common storm tracks are going to be this winter. That's where kind of the ridges and troughs will be located. You can see there's clear correlation. There's going to be ridge out in the western U.S., and good correlation. There's going to be a trough out in the eastern U.S. throughout much of the winter. That's going to bring active conditions along the jet stream. These are kind of basically showing the jet stream. You can see a lot of different storm tracks kind of converge in this region right here. That's where there's going to be a lot of above average precipitation. There's a lot of green right there. Also, the Pacific jet's going to, especially early in the winter, is going to really bring a lot of above average precipitation out towards the northwestern United States, especially early in the winter. And there's a lot of agreement that the southern United States, probably the southern maybe quarter of the United States, will see above or below average precipitation. And really in the middle here could be either way, probably average to equal chances. So that being said, let's get right into the winter outlook. Drum roll, please. We are finally here, the 2016-2017 winter outlook by Weather Decoded here. So I am forecasting, this is from my personal forecast here, a cooler than average eastern half of the United States, except for the very far southern United States. Okay, it's going to be very close. I mean, we're close to the shore even. But Florida and the southern parts of the southernmost states probably going to see above average temperatures and drier conditions. Same thing with California and the desert Southwest. Not good for the drought. Not good. But the northwestern United States probably going to have a wet start. Very wet. Probably average, maybe slightly below average temperatures to start off the winter. And then, of course, the eastern half of the United States, colder than average. Brutal cold, potentially, up in the northern and probably Great Lakes region, maybe even northeastern United States, with the big, bad winter jackpot winners being the Great Lakes region, okay? Maybe extending as far south as Ohio, Pennsylvania, and maybe even Indiana. But I think the big, bad winter jackpot, everything that converges, is going to be in the Great Lakes region, Michigan, and kind of areas around that. So how does the good old Winter Impact Index look? This is a new tool that I'm trying out this winter called the Winter Impact Index. It's something I've developed in the good old Secret Storm Lab. But what this is it kind of measures how intense is a winter going to be. 1 is not so intense, 10 is very intense, okay? And so I've given kind of that area out in Michigan and really areas along the Great Lakes region an 8 out of 10. I think it's going to be an intense winter, but not like catastrophic or anything, nothing record-breaking, but I think it will be above average in that area. The same is the case for much of the Midwest here, out into parts of the interior, far northeastern U.S., a 7 out of 10. And then I've given this area right here a 6 out of 10 for parts of the eastern plains, eastern central northern plains, into much of the Midwest, Tennessee Valley, and pretty much all of the northeastern. I've given a 6 out of 10, probably slightly above average winter weather conditions. 5 out of 10 is average conditions. Now, I said that this area would see above average precipitation, but I do think the second half of winter will be more, it's going to be warmer and drier than average, so it'll kind of average out there. You'll see above average precipitation, but it might not be all snow. The southern U.S., probably not going to have much of a winter. It will probably be cooler for the second half of winter in this quadrant of the U.S., but overall speaking, this is for the entire winter, probably not going to be terribly concerning down in that area. So I've given that area between a 1 and a 3 or 4 out of 10. So that being said, let's crack right into the forecasted winter temperatures. This is what I forecast for winter temperatures. Based off all of those key factors, I am giving this area up here much below average temperatures. The interior northeastern United States, away from the ocean. I think the ocean, you got to get away from it for the below average temperatures. Through the northern U.S. and the Great Lakes region, you're going to see probably temperatures maybe below 5 degrees below average. And then I've given this area, the central U.S. out to the Midwest into most of the northeastern U.S. below average temperatures, maybe slightly below to moderately below average temperatures. The jet stream is going to dip south. You're going to get plenty of cold air outbreaks, especially in January in this region. Average temperatures where equal chances will extend kind of in this region right here. Now, I want to talk about this area right here. There is going to be some cold outbreaks. Yes, it says above average or of average temperatures, but that's for the whole entire winter. January might bring some very cold temperatures for that area, maybe below average January. So these people wanting a winter in this area, you might get a winter. It's not going to be the whole winter, but you might get a winter for at least January. But this area of the United States right here, I really hate to break it to you, but I think that area is going to be very warm and probably pretty dry. This area needs cooler and wetter conditions. I understand that for the drought. I'm hoping it happens. I'm really hoping I'm wrong in that area. But, probabilistically speaking, I think this area ends up above average temperatures right now. So that being said, how do the storm tracks look? And this will lead right into the precipitation. I think I forgot one here, but there's going to be a Pacific jet earlier on in the winter that gives this area plenty of above average precipitation and active storms for the first half of winter. There's going to be a lot of ridging out here, so there's not going to be much storms passing into this area. But what we will see is we'll see an active storm track kind of start out really in Oklahoma and track into the Tennessee Valley out into the northeastern United States. You'll also get plenty of clippers that come down in this region. Okay, that polar jet stream is going to dip south into this region, kind of in between a La Nina and a neutral pattern. And you might get some storms that right up the coast. So an active pattern for this area right here. That's where your above average precipitation is going to occur, which leads us into the precipitation. What is the forecasted precipitation from December through March, our winter forecast for winter precipitation? I'm giving this area, the northwestern United States, slightly above average precipitation. With Oregon, there's a lot of potential right here for western Oregon to receive above average precipitation. Feel pretty confident about that. The first half of winter, it's going to be pretty active. The second half of winter, it's going to be average to drier than average. But that first half of winter should give this area above average precipitation. That being said, you're going to get clippers that come down into this area. So anything north of that red line, I think above average precipitation. Here it's going to be equal to average chances in the central plains. It will kind of depend. Okay, remember this is precipitation. This includes rain. I'll get into that in a second because we got the snowfall map coming up. And so we got above average precipitation for this area where that storm track is going to be active. You're going to have lake effect precipitation, clippers, and storms riding out of the central and southern plains. Okay, so you're going to get a lot of above average precipitation there. You'll probably get above average precipitation here as well. And anything south of that, and to the southern third of the United States, I'm forecasting below average precipitation. There'll be a lot of ridging here earlier in the winter, and I think it's going to be pretty dry here earlier in the winter. You might get some cold shots, maybe some chances for snow. It's not out of the question for the southern United States, so all hope is not lost. But overall, this is what I'm thinking. And I got to tell you, folks, out in the southwestern United States, probably below average precipitation in that region. Now, just because the waters are warm over here doesn't always mean you're going to get more precipitation. And that leads me into the final map the winter snowfall. What is the forecasted winter snowfall? Now, you remember the precipitation map here actually had average precip in this area in the central U.S. Now, why is there slightly above average snowfall in this region? Well, because it's going to be colder than average. So whatever precipitation does fall, a lot of that precipitation is going to be snow in this region, okay? That being said, out here, it says average snowfall when there was above average precipitation, but I do think a lot of that above average precipitation is going to be rain in that region, okay? It's probably going to be a little bit warmer than average at times as well. So I think average snowfall for that region. But that being said, out here in the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the interior northeastern United States into the Great Lakes region, you're going to have above average snowfall. This is where the big bad winter is. So if you really like winter, I would say take a trip up to, well, I'm not saying actually do this, but hey, if you want to, hey, rent a cabin somewhere out in Michigan, and it's going to be a fun winter up there. I think you're going to get a good lake effect snow season. I think right now it's warmer than average. It's been a very warm October and early November. You're going to have a little bit warmer than average temperatures out there. But what's going to happen is the pattern is going to abruptly change. It's going to get cold, and it's going to get cold fast. What does that mean? Potential lake effect snow events. There's going to be a lot of them, okay? A lot of lake effect snow events. There's going to be above average lake effect snow for this area. You're going to get clippers that come down. You're going to get lows that ride up from the southwest. A lot of converging stuff happening here. Maybe some nor'easters as well. I think you're going to get more than usual nor'easters for this area. There's going to be a lot of snow, a big bad winter for this area. That extends down into the Tennessee Valley and potentially as far west as the eastern plains. Okay, so slightly above average snowfall there. Equal chances exist anywhere south of that area, and below average snow exists for the southern third of the United States, probably where those warmer than average temperatures occur. And I hate to break it, even though this area doesn't get snow. Wouldn't it be nice to get some snow out there with the raging fires? I sincerely hope that area does get a lot of precipitation. I don't care if I'm wrong. I really hope that area gets a lot of precipitation this winter, okay? So that concludes the 2016-2017 official weather decoded winter forecast. I really hope you've enjoyed this. Now, there's a couple of reasons I've made this video. Number one is, well, I hope you've really learned something from this video. I hope you have a better understanding, at least from my perspective, how this winter is going to play out. Hope you've learned some weather forecasting techniques. But I've also made this video as a bribe to get you on to my super forecasting email subscription list. If you sign up below, I'm going to send you an 80-page super winter forecast. You're going to get regional breakdowns. I actually have included some city snow forecast totals, so how much snow is going to happen for select cities across the United States. You're also going to get all my methods I've used, all those secret key factors that I've used to forecast this winter forecast, just for joining the email list, the tribe of super forecasters. And if that's not enough, November 15th, I am releasing my winter forecasting checklist. This is literally a cheat sheet, especially for weather forecasters, weather enthusiasts, a cheat sheet for forecasting winter storms. You can be an absolute beginner and use this thing. It's a literal cheat sheet. It's a winter forecasting playbook, and that is also free. That's also going to be included, and I will send that off November 15th. So these are just bribes to get you to join the good old weather super forecasting email list. I'm also going to send out forecast updates, educational forecast updates, and a weather forecasting tutorial. So if you're not a weather enthusiast, I do not recommend joining this list. This is only for weather enthusiasts that love weather, okay? Love crazy weather. So go ahead and check that out below. And after you do, if you like more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. right in the middle here. Just click on that button, subscribe. I will send out more. I'll make more videos. I'll upload more of these videos to YouTube. Okay. And after you're done with all of that, if you want weather live streaming videos, Weather and Coffee with Cody, go ahead and follow me below on Facebook. I'll probably be doing some live streams this winter called Weather and Coffee with Cody, where I will, we'll check out some of the weather events across the United States. I'll do some forecasting tutorials as well. I'll answer some weather Q&A, and I'll forecast probably real time during snowstorms and as we head into spring severe weather season. So go ahead and check that out. Go ahead and follow me below. And so go ahead and sign up for the email, subscribe here on YouTube, and then follow me on Facebook. Hope you enjoyed the winter forecast, and I'll see you soon.